Hello, welcome to Akofena Tv. Today, our story is about Sarah Bartman, also known as Sartjee, a very tragic yet historical one. Sarah Bartman, born in the year 1789, was a South African woman from the Khoikhoi tribe located in the Kamnevu Valley in the then Cape Colony. Her life story has become a very historic one and echoed across the world over a century. The story of Sartjee, as she was known by many, holds both tragic and educational significance in the history of black women and the segregation of their dignity and integrity by the oppressors and gatekeepers of the world. Her story confirms the pattern of deceit, manipulation, and psychological abuse of our African women from the time of colonization until today. Sarah Bartman was born to a humble family whose occupation was servitude. Her mother died when she was very young and also lost her father not long after that to the tribe called the Bushmen, who were mostly hunters. People often described her as a beautiful and very hard-working young lady whilst growing up in her community, doing menial jobs to survive on her own. Through her hard work of being a servant in many homes, she gained access to the colonial army barracks and became a servant over there. But this move would change her life story into what the world knows about her today. She moved to Cape Town 2 years after serving the Dutch army and landed a job as a servant to a Dutch official, who later changed her name to Sartjee. She then met William Dunlop, who was a circus leader and a performer. He later convinced her to move to London with him. William had seen a great opportunity to make money from Sarah's breathtaking and conspicuous stature. Sarah had an unusual appearance, which marveled anyone who saw her at that time. Her huge backside and curvy nature, though indifferent to Africans, was a new discovery to the colonizers. They had never seen such a breathtaking and overwhelmingly endowed woman ever in Europe. So William persisted that Sartjee came with him to London to exhibit her gift in his circus, which he promised would bring both of them a lot of money and fame. Although Sarah refused for closely 2 years, William kept on insisting until she gave in to his demand, and she boarded a ship with him and his crew to Europe. They landed in London in November 1810 and signed a contract with her in December 1810. Sartjee, being the illiterate she was, signed an English written contract without knowing what it entails. They started moving around performing circuses, and Sarah being the most special appearance at every show, dressed in a simple piece of cloth like an apron covering just her private parts and showcasing her huge backside and curves to the audience. The audience were taken aback by her stunning personality, and she was mostly locked in a cage to prevent people touching her directly, even though some rich families paid extra to poke her with sticks to find out if she was real. Many rich families paid for special performances in private house parties and up-close contact with a gigantic woman from Africa. Business was booming for William Dunlop, and Sartjee was becoming more of a public ridicule to herself and the entire African community across the world. since she was treated no different from a common zoo animal, locked in cages and being sexually exploited by the rich. This infuriated the human rights community. So Zachariah Macaulay, a slave trade abolition activist, took William Dunlop to court over the treatment and abuse of the poor Sarah Bartman. But William Dunlop won the case since he had a contract signed by the illiterate Sartjee, which protected himself and his colleagues from such legal matters. And also, Sartjee testified in court claiming she was not forced to do what she does, and she has not been sexually abused, so the court had no option than to dismiss the case. Not long after the court case, William and his colleagues moved to Manchester with Sartjee. Here in Manchester, it was business as usual, and Sarah Bartman even got baptized during their stay over there. William Dunlop died in Manchester, and Sartjee was left with no manager. So she was taken to France by Henry Taylor, a man who had heard much about her shows and also see the opportunity of making money from his French community if he brought Sarah to France. Shortly after they arrived in France, she was sold to S. Real, an animal trainer who subjected Sarah to the worst treatment humans can possibly think of. He locked her in cages and walked her in museums, sometimes chained or even naked. He sexually abused her and gave her out to those who can afford to pay for sexual services with her. She was later impregnated by S. Real and they had a son, but he died very young at the age of 5 to an unknown ailment. A renowned doctor called George Cuvier, who specialized in human anatomy, was keen on studying and performing experiments on Sarah Bartman to find the cause of her abnormal appearance. He was so obsessed with her body that his zoology friends and other colleagues from different medical fields joined him on his quest. As destiny may have it, Sarah Bartman died in 1815 at the age of 26. Many say it was STDs. Others say it was emotional and psychological trauma. And some also claim moving around from Africa to Europe on such inhumane and traumatic expeditions was heavy on her. Even after her death, George Cuvier requested access to her corpse so he can study and find out the cause of death. But far from it, he was experimenting on her body to find out the cause of her well-endowed figure. He preserved her corpse as speculated, sometimes even displayed it for exhibitions. Finally, the time came when Africa was free from colonialism, so the South African community, with the help of the whole Africans across the world, fought to bring her body to her homeland. On 9th August 2002, Mandela was finally able to bring Sarah Bartman, Sartjee, home to her motherland to be buried in her hometown. So to my African queens who have lost themselves to BBL and all sort of body enhancing surgeries, it's a pity that yet again our women are being lied to about what they already have and own. African women have been envied and studied over centuries, and now they have been lied to and body shamed to an extent where they have accepted to go under the knife for beautification. It is a pity to know that who we are and what we own is now being sold to us from the same people who were astonished by Sarah Bartman and studied her even after her death. How did African women get here? How did we get here as Africans? Perhaps the concealment of history and distorted narratives over generations has blinded us to what is eminent. This confirms the saying that he who controls the media controls the minds of the masses. We need to revisit ancestry and history to be able to know our true selves and make the right decisions today. Wake up, Africa women, for you are the true epitome of beauty in this world. Rest in peace, Sartjee. Rest in peace, Sarah Bartman.
6:30 on a beat.